You know, if you try to talk about how you feel, it was just pull your socks up and just get on with it. Escapism wasn't working, but alcohol did that for me. I've got stitches in my head. The clothes I'm wearing are still covered in blood. And I get to our house and I tell myself it weren't that bad and go to her fridge and get booze out. I was like, I've had enough. Just don't know how to stop. But what I've also learned is that by helping others, I help myself.
Yo, what's happening, people? I want to welcome you to Flip the Script podcast show. My name is Sol and I am the host. So, on this show, you'll get the opportunity to listen to some inspiring people talking about real, honest, heartfelt, no holds barred transformation stories. We get to hear from ex-drug users, reformed criminals, all sharing their personal stories and how they manage not only to turn their lives around, but now are helping others to do the same. We also get to hear from courageous men and women sharing their experience of surviving high-level trauma and what they are doing or done to start that much-needed healing process. Right, so welcome to Flip the Script podcast show. Once again, my name is Sol, I'm the host. And this podcast is about people coming on there, sharing their life experiences, their transformation stories, and what they're doing now, how they're giving back to the community, and stuff like that. So today I've got the lovely Emily, who is from London, who is kindly come along, who's going to share her story, her transformation story, and stuff like that. Emily, well done, man, for getting here. Thank you.
Thanks for asking me, Sal.
Brilliant. It's good to kind of see you. I kind of know you. And I don't kind of know you. I don't know your story, but I know that you're in some form of recovery and stuff like that. Yeah. I do know you're a mum of two and you're nearly 7 years in sobriety.
Yeah.
And I've also kind of seen you started to kind of get into the mindset coaching. And I know you're training to be an NLP
practitioner.
Practitioner. Yeah. See, I have to get it right. So you're kind of, I suppose, crossing the line a little bit from helping yourself.
Yeah.
And getting yourself, in sobriety and, and doing that stuff that we do. And now you kind of want to help other people maybe move on in their life, whether it's whatever they're doing. It's not about just drugs, alcohol, or just what form of recovery. Is that correct? So Emily, just tell us a little bit. I've kind of spoke for you. Yeah.
No. So my transformation started 7 years ago when I came into recovery, and it really opened my brain up and my mind up to something different. And, life is a journey. And what I've also learned is that by helping others, I help myself. So I'd got to the point where recovery was going really well. And obviously I'm sober. And then there was some other stuff. I needed to go through a different level. So then I hired a life coach and worked on myself. And then there was just more. There was more to the mind. Like I got really interested in the mind and why do we do the things that we do? Why do my parents do the things we do? Because my end goal is to really, and ideally, I want to be able to design a program that can be taught in schools to teach children to live from cause and not from effect. Because that's what I realized. A lot of us say, oh, well, I haven't got, so therefore I am not. Rather than saying, okay, well, I haven't got, so what am I thinking? What are my belief systems? So I totally believe, and what I learned in recovery was that, number one, we have to take responsibility for ourselves in order to recover and in order to get results from it. So that's sort of what's led me down the NLP life coaching sort of mindset, because it is all about mindset. When we change our internal condition, the external changes. It has to. It's a definite. It's a given.
Absolutely. So that's awesome. So you that's your kind of goal. You want to go into schools and you want to kind of teach young people how to change their mindset from negativity to positivity, or is that right? Am I right there? Is it
totally?
Yeah. Okay, cool. So you said you kind of started change, your recovery, your transformation started 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Tell me about Emily growing up, because you spoke about young people and, what was it like, Tell us about yourself, man.
So growing up, it's so nice when my dog's got a squeaky toy.
That's all right.
So squeaking in the background. So growing up, it was quite difficult. But the thing is when you're in it and you're living that life, no different. It is your life. So I knew no different. I didn't think it was horrific. And I only had comparisons. Like for me, my parents, I've grown up with alcoholic parents. Now, they're not alcoholics 24 hours a day. They are what we would call functional alcoholics. So there was always dinner on the table, and they're always up, and your uniform's always ready. But come the evening, there was always drinking, and blackout drinking. And, I know today, which I didn't know at the time, I took it personally. I thought it was all about me. And it was just, I developed these belief systems, and I developed this self-hatred and took everything personally. And it was quite traumatic and quite horrendous growing up for me internally. So it was, like, we didn't have much money. So I would see all my friends had the nice shiny clothes and the nice trainers, and they were going on holidays. That wasn't my reality. I had hand-me-downs from my brother. I did get bullied for it. And that caused internal conflict within myself, the not feeling good enough and stuff. This dog is driving me nuts. I didn't know at the time, but this was what was happening. All I could see was that people had what I wanted, and I didn't have it. And I didn't know any difference. So it was, I blame my parents for everything. Like, I remember one of the really horrific things, right, that's really scarred me from childhood is when mountain bikes came out. All of my friends got mountain bikes for Christmas. They're all riding around, either the BMXs or the mountain bikes. Now, my mum and dad, to try and save money, or because they didn't have money, somebody had an old chopper. Now, choppers are really trendy today, and they're amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but back then, when you're like an 8-9-year-old girl and you've got the chopper with the gear stick in the middle and the little wheel at the front and the big wheel at the back, you just get the piss taken out of you. And I was just like, I just wanted the mountain bike. So then I would bully the neighbour to take his mountain bike and made him ride the chopper. So he got bullied and not me. And you can see that there's, I had no one to direct me. I had no guidance. I had no ability to understand my emotions. And for me, that's how I grew up. And, if you try to talk about how you feel, it was just pull your socks up and just get on with it. So then we go through, the poverty, coming from poverty. But then there was also physical abuse in my upbringing. I know today that my mum had issues with her own mum. Obviously, that's why she drinks. But you know what? I got the brunt of it because I didn't like what was happening. And the only way I knew to react was to be cheeky, naughty, and, quite vocal about my dislike for stuff. And then obviously my mum, being like an alcoholic and no control over her emotions, just gets on the defensive and matches me with like. So we just had this, and the end result is if Emily doesn't shut her mouth and she's too cheeky, my mum would batter me. Like, as a result, what I've learned from that has made me tough. It's made me strong. It's made me tough. And I understand my mum today, but it was only through the journey of going into recovery, learning about resentments and stuff, and learning about compassion and forgiveness, that I was able to see my mum's story, to see my own belief systems and the reason why I did my own things. I could understand why she did what she did.
Well, absolutely. A lot of people that I've got coming on here, they speak about their parents and how sometimes things weren't good at home, and most of them that have done some work on themselves always come back with, listen, I understand my mum now. As before, when I was a kid, I didn't, it's all, when we're young, I don't know about me, it's all about us, isn't it? It's not, we want me. What about me? Not worrying about, maybe your parents are working, they're doing the best. They can only give you what they only had. That's it. And we don't really realize until we get a little bit older and we start doing a little bit of work on ourselves and we realize, wait a minute, you know what? Okay, I understand it. It doesn't make it right, but I understand it. And that's where forgiveness and stuff like that. And then we try and break the cycles, as and we try and stop that from us. Yeah, I suppose. I just want, but when you're in it,
it's horrendous. It is horrendous, and all you want to do is escape it. So for me, it would be, I would either try and run to my grandma. I used to spend a lot of time at my grandma's to get away from her. And that in itself was toxic because she had a terminal illness and I became her carer. you know, and in charge of her medication and stuff. And that was just a way of trying to get love and to get away from the toxicity. And what I realized is throughout all my life, even with my boyfriends, they've always been to escape. So like my first boyfriend was to escape my parents. My second boyfriend was to escape my first boyfriend. My third boyfriend was to escape the second boyfriend. Everything I've always done is to escape a situation that I'm in that I don't like.
What was it? I know you spoke a little bit. What was the feeling that you was trying to escape? Describe the feelings that you was trying to escape.
Just not feeling good enough and not being happy with the situation where I'm at, but not having the tools to understand that I'm responsible for it. And I'm responsible for my emotions, and I can make decisions, and I can set boundaries and set standards for myself. So because I had none of that, I just needed to get away from it, and I needed to get the next good feeling thing.
All right. So you're a young girl. Yeah, you're not feeling good enough. You know, you're seeing comparisons come into your life. You know, and I understand that. You know, you're looking at everybody. Like for me, I remember Adidas trainers, Adidas kick trainers.
Yeah.
Everybody had them. I had the 4 stripes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, I think the first good pair of trainers I think I had were a pair of Dunlop Green Flash, I think. Do you know what I mean? And they weren't even good trainers, but it was like you was kind of okay with them. You was like,
yeah,
all right, you can come in. We know you're poor, but we're allowing you. You know then what? Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, because comparison. I mean, yeah, and that makes you feel, because you don't feel, like you said, you don't feel good enough. And I felt exactly the same. You know, I said everybody else going on holidays and all that stuff. Same. So, but when did you actually say, just feel? I suppose that the penny dropped. Wait a minute, you know, this isn't, you know, I don't feel like I'm not good enough. When can you kind of remember that point? Was there a point?
Right. So when I was just doing stuff to escape, I literally had to, for me, I didn't have any teachers around me. I didn't have anyone that pulled me to the sides to explain. So for me, I turned to alcohol and drugs.
Okay.
Because people weren't working for me anymore. People giving me the escapism wasn't working, but alcohol did that for me. Okay. And it crept in, and it took for me to die internally, to be reborn again, to learn tools. Like I literally had to get to the point with my alcoholism. You know, it wasn't, I picked up a drink and I was an alkie. It was a slow burning process. As I went through all these, run into the next boyfriend, I know I'll have a kid, that'll save me. As I did all of these, I'll change jobs, that'll save me, I'll get a new job, I'll earn more money. Money was another one. I'll be all right when I've got more money. So as I've gone through all these processes and they didn't work, alcohol did. It relieved the negative self-talk, because my head, most people say it's like a washing machine. Like mine literally was like a fucking Gatling gun. It would annihilate me constantly, and there was no escape from it. But as soon as I had that drink, it would just go quiet and I'd feel good about myself, you know. And it was lovely in the beginning. It would give me that freedom that I needed, and you know, with responsibility of working, running a house, children, toxic families, no boundaries, you know, all this internal conflict that you've got. It was just that valve that released from me the pressure. But then what happened is, the more that I had the pressure and the more chaos that happened because of the drinking, the more I needed it, to the point that, you know, I would still go to work. I drink a litre bottle of Jack Daniels or a litre and a half of Jack Daniels, and I'd be up at 6 a.m. going to work. And like, even my ex-partner, he says to me, I just don't know how you do it. But I went to work with a massive hangover, not performing, not being present, absolutely hating my life, just waiting for 6 o'clock so I can get home and pour another drink. And then it got to the point with my drinking where as soon as I opened my eyes in the morning, I just hated myself. You know, I tried suicide a couple of times, and I would open my eyes in the morning, and the only thing to do was I just wanted to go back to sleep. I just didn't want to think, and I didn't want to be here. So I would just start drinking again. And for me, my drinking wasn't to numb in the end, it was for blackout. Like I wanted to be unconscious to the world. You know, and it took for it to get to that point, and that I was going to lose my children. I had a bit of an epiphany. And it was the fact that, you know, I couldn't live with it. I couldn't live without it. I didn't know how to live without it. And all I've been surrounded by is people that drink. Like on my dad's side, I've lost an auntie to alcoholism. You know, I can't remember her exact age, but I think she was like 47. She's walking around on a Zimmer frame. She hadn't eaten solid food in months. She had to blend it. And she was so drunk, she thought someone was stealing her booze downstairs. And when she was upstairs, she heard the clanking of the bottle and was so driven by the alcohol being stolen from her. And in her drunk state, she fell down the stairs and severed her spinal cord.
Wow.
My dad's other sister, she's an alcoholic, you know, leaking livers. There's just no function to life. And all of these women in my family that suffer with this, they're intelligent, they're beautiful, and they are capable of so much more, but they are prisoners to the disease of alcoholism. And that's exactly what I was. And I had this epiphany that my children, like, I hated my mum and dad for my upbringing, hated them. Like, I would have been so much better. I would have had this, I would have been that, if they hadn't have been alcoholics. And yet here I was doing it to my children. And I hated myself so much for that. And the only way I could get rid of that hate for myself was to have another drink. I had no other solution. So it got to the point that I actually had to take myself out of that situation, put myself in a rehab, which I know today that you don't have to do. The meetings are there. There's thousands of them around us. I didn't know they existed, you know, and that's where my journey began.
So did you actually realize that, wait a minute, that I might actually have a problem with alcohol? Because you spoke a little bit about the slow progress. When did you, because there's a time when there must have been a point where you think, do you know what, this is a problem now?
I knew long before the darkness, like, there's always a knowing in us. And this is the thing that gets me, right, with the brain and how clever it is, because our brain is like, I hear so many people when I hear shares and stuff, and they're like, my brain just wants to kill me, but it doesn't. It's the complete opposite. Our brain wants to protect us, you know, and it wants to survive. So when it sees, for me, alcohol was my coping mechanism, it was like, right, so that makes her feel better because the darkness was too much. And then what it does, when you know long before that, before you treat your disease, treat the alcoholism, you know you've got a problem. But then what the brain cleverly does, because it doesn't want you to take away its coping mechanism, it develops this thing called denial. Right? So that's the protection. So please don't take my drink away from me. So then you have denial. And unfortunately, denial keeps us sick for a lot longer. Like, I should have got help a lot quicker than what I did. But the denial, and also when you're surrounded by alcoholism and you're surrounded by people that are thinking and doing the same things, you justify, I'm not that bad. At least
give us an example of your denial. Give me an example of your denial.
Listen, it was always, the next day was, it weren't that bad.
Okay.
It weren't that bad. Like, I've come to where I've fallen over, cracked my head open on the toilet pan, and if my friend never turned up and took me to hospital, I would have bled out and died. And I get out of hospital after having stitches, and we go back to her house. Now I'm covered in dry blood. I've been on a drip. I've got stitches in my head. The clothes I'm wearing are still covered in blood. And I get to her house and I tell myself it weren't that bad, and go to her fridge and get booze out. That's what my denial is. My denial is just one tonight and we'll stop tomorrow. It was always, I'll stop tomorrow. Okay. And then tomorrow never came. You know.
So when did tomorrow come then? When did it stop for you? I mean, because you said that you kind of, like, it was a slow progress, you went through it, and then finally you found some form of recovery. Describe what happened. How was the situation? How did it come about that you went into rehab, or how did you?
For me, my drinking was blackout drinking. I just didn't want to be. So you can imagine, I've got two little children. Like, they're grown up now, but they were two little children. I think my daughter was about 2 and my son was 6. And I would black out. So my 6-year-old always had to look after the 2-year-old. So what my son used to do is go in my phone and ring my parents to come and collect him because he can't wake mummy up. And that was a reoccurring situation. And then I'd drank so much. I think I was in a toxic relationship with their dad as well. And I just couldn't cope. and I black out. I was drinking, and I literally wasn't like I would drink and black out. I could drink and black out, come to 3 hours later, drink again and black out, come to, drink and black out. And I would do that constantly throughout the day. I woke up and my kids weren't there. My friend was there. And I was naked. I was upside down, laying in my own piss and vomit. And all I wanted to do was have a drink. I didn't even ask where my children were. She'd come from work to pick them up, to take them to my parents. She'd gone back to work and came back to me at the end of the day. And I was still in the same position. And I remember I woke up and I said, if I was sick, if I had cancer, if I had something wrong with my body, I would go to the doctor. They would tell me what's wrong. They would give me treatment. And you know, I don't know what's wrong with me. I just can't stop. How the fuck did I get here? And I remember just looking around thinking, what have I done to my kids? Like, I remember ringing my son and trying to speak to my son on the phone. He just wasn't interested. 6-year-old, disappointment, disgust. And I thought, for me, all the years that I hated my mum for what she did to me, my mum never, ever did that. She never, ever, I never had to ring someone to come and collect me.
Okay.
And I just thought, Jesus Christ, I'd hated this woman for so long for what she had done to me. And it weren't even a fraction of what I was doing to my children. And then I had the clarity, and then I went into rehab.
What was the process, the rehab? What did somebody help you get to, like,
my friend did.
Okay, so you got some.
My friend
somebody was with you and rang around, and okay, brilliant.
I was crying. I had. I'll tell you what I had. I had £3 in my bank account. I knew I needed help. I couldn't afford it, and I didn't know the meetings were around. You know, and I begged her, and I said, please lend me the money. Please, I will pay it back. I had no fucking idea I was going to pay it back. No idea. But I knew that I couldn't keep doing what I was doing, you know, and we rang round, she found a space for me, and she paid for it on her credit card. And I went the next day.
What a great friend, man.
Yeah, amazing. Like, we've been friends since I was 11 years old. She is, yeah. And that was the start of my journey.
So what was it like for you to be walking into a rehab, and with all this, I suppose, historic, bloody, you know, alcoholic behaviour, we'd like to call it, you know, because I know when you walk into one of them places, it's like, what was it like for you?
Oh, listen, this will make you laugh. This is how insane I was, right? So while I packed my bag to go to rehab, I was still drunk the night before. Mm-hmm. So literally,
standard.
So there was like knickers, couple of bras, and not very many clothes, right? So I had absolutely like no clothes. All I had on was my gym gear, right? So I've gone to this rehab, which was out in, is it Chelmsford or somewhere like that? So I'm coming along with my little case. As I've come past, there's a pub across the road, and I thought, that's just fucking typical, isn't it? And I've walked into this rehab in my running gear, looking at these people sitting on the sofa. Now you've got to remember, I have no idea about addiction, right? And I looked and I thought, I ain't one of these. Like, when they're talking about crack and heroin and like their alcoholism, I'm looking at them and I like, straight away, I ain't one of these. I got a job. Do you know what I mean? I go to work. Look at me in my running gear. Like, I think I was about 6 stone, 7 stone. Like, this shit was hanging off me. There was no way I was the picture of fitness and health. And I walked in and I told them, I said, like, I'm just here for a break. Like, deluded.
Come for a little holiday.
So I've gone from desperation of needing help the day before to now I'm just here for a break. And I'm not like one of you, so. That's just mad.
That's the denial again. That's another strong denial, trying to keep, you know, definitely. You know, it's quite common you hear about that, you know, people walk into rehab and last week they were desperately on the floor crying to God or just like in bits. They walk into him like, they're like, who are you talking to? Don't talk to me like you know, the whole,
don't hug me.
Like, don't, all that's like, yeah, a little
when
bit
the
better.
Counsellor's trying to instill discipline, who are you talking to? Like, I'm a grown woman.
Yeah, definitely.
So you
But
spent a few weeks in, so you got there, you got there
2 weeks. I could
2
only
weeks.
afford 2 weeks. And everyone in there
Okay.
was going, oh, you're not going to be able to do it. You're going to need longer. And I was like, well, listen, I can't afford longer. So I've got 2 weeks. So you best gimme. And I did. I just thought, do you know what? It was the first time I've been away from my children as well. So
Wow.
I was in a rehab center with these strange people, and I had people trying to instill discipline and routine to me, which was like, what? And then holding me accountable, like that was alien. I look back now and it's so funny, and people trying to get me to meditate. Let's do a meditation circle. What? Like I was like, you weirdos, like absolutely weirdos. Now I will say today, meditation is just part of who I am. You know, it's so important to who I am today. But back then I'm like just didn't get it. And then sitting around in a circle talking about your feelings, and they come around and say, so Emily, how are you feeling today? Fuck off. Literally, that's what I used to say. Like I didn't understand feelings. I had anger and rage. That's all I had.
Brilliant.
You know.
So 2 weeks in, so what was it like
Yep.
leaving that? What was it like leaving there and then having to come back to what you knew? That must have been pretty kind of like scary, man.
Well, the thing is, a lot of people that were in there were terrified of leaving because you're in this little bubble, you know, and you're away from your life and responsibilities off your shoulders. And the problem is, sobriety has to work in real life. It has
100%.
to work in real life. I can't stay in a bubble. I have children, I have bills, I have a job, you know, so it was scary, but I had some new tools. I basically found the meeting. So I knew I had a support network, and I knew when I left. So as soon as I left, I met up with somebody in recovery that talked me through what I need to be doing. So I met up with him. He told me what to be doing. And then I just started finding meetings and started planning my weeks. You know, and I didn't stay sober when I came out of recovery. I went on for another 12 months. But what I did learn is to have 30 days sober.
Wow.
So I'd not drink I'd never been able to do that. I used to drink every single day. So then what I did is I didn't drink for 30 days. Then I'd go out the door. Then I'd pick up a drink. So for me, some people can just come in, they understand, they're open and they get it. For me, I was so shut. I was so closed, and the way I thought was so ingrained in me. So it was a process to open. It was a bit like opening a flower, you know, and for me, it was instrumental in finding a woman that was armed with the facts about herself, illness, life, the 12 steps, and she took me through the journey. And when I met her, that's when my life changed, you know, and it really did change.
So sometimes it just takes someone that understands, don't they? Exactly what's going on. What? Because if you don't understand what's wrong with me, I don't know what's wrong with me. So if somebody else can tell me, look, I know what's wrong with me, and it sounds like very much what's wrong with you, and then that's you know, and that's where the window of opportunity. Yeah, and we open up, don't we? And then things can start to change. So you said about
Sorry, Sol, to interrupt, but I will add in there, when I came out of recovery, what I was trying to do is I was trying to keep this action-packed lifestyle where I was being a mum running around. I was in a full-time job working all the hours under the sun. I was trying to do this, trying to do everything. And for me, that's what would happen. The pressure would build, and then I couldn't cope, and I'd have a drink. So what I learned to do was to rein back on my work, to cut down my work. So I had to cut down my working days to 2-3 days a week. You know, I had to learn to slow my life down. And once I learned that under her guidance, my sponsor's guidance, that's when I started flourishing.
Right. So it seems like what you said earlier on, you know, you just kept on running away from yourself by doing the work.
Yeah.
Even in recovery, you came out, still have work, being a mum. You're not really being still, and you're not really kind of, because you got to sit still in you to learn to like kind of deal with the situation. And if you're 100 miles per hour, you're not going to do that. Yeah. Awesome. So 12 months, you're in and out of the rooms, you're in and out of recovery. You say recovery, it was recovery, but you wasn't sober.
Sober.
You was trying it, trying
it was my
to
journey.
drink. Yeah, it was your journey. Yeah, it was still a form
no,
of
but that's the thing. So I wasn't trying to social drink. I didn't want to drink. I used to even when I drank, I'd turn up at the meetings and say, I don't want to drink. And people would say to me, you haven't had enough. If you'd had enough, you just, and I was like, I've had enough, just don't know how to stop. But what it was, the lifestyle pressure was just building up and I had no release for it. So I had to learn to quieten the lifestyle in order not to have the,
So you were still using alcohol as a coping tool, cool.
It wasn't that I wanted to drink, I didn't.
So tell me something what healthy coping tools are you using at the moment then, to stay in sobriety? What are you doing? Because obviously at the moment, it's not drinking every month on the de-stress.
So at the moment, coping mechanisms is learning to slow my life down. So learning to keep my pain manageable, you know. So if I'm taking something new on, I'd have to offload something in my life. Have I got space and have I got time for it? You know, I've instilled morning routines and nighttime routines, which are journaling.
Tell me a little bit about your morning routine. So journaling.
So I wake up in the morning. I get myself some fresh lemon water because it's always good to rehydrate. So I've learned to look after my body. I journal. So I'll just creative journal, which turns into affirmations and what I want in my life and how I want to be for the day. And then what I do is I'll go into a meditation. So I sit and I meditate for 20 minutes. What type of meditation? It varies on what I need for the day, you know. And then what I do once I finish my meditation, I pray, which is, for me, prayer is about intention setting, you know, and what I want to achieve for the day. And then I get up and, you know, I love music, so, and I think music is very instrumental in energy. I believe in energy, and energy is massive for me. So music, feel good, get up, get ready, put the tunes on, start getting the kids up. And then you start. And I've noticed since I've had a good morning routine, like, you know, I used to really struggle with feelings of feeling really positive and then the negative, and it was like a tug of war. But when I looked at what I was doing in the day, I wasn't being disciplined with my morning routines, and then I became disciplined, and now they're just a part of who I am.
Absolutely, you know, exactly like you. Me and my partner, where we have a morning routine. Sometimes it's together. We'll sit down, we'll do some readings, we'll do you know, some yoga, meditation. And like you said earlier on, see me, I remember I used to see people talking about doing yoga and meditation, and I'd be like, dickhead, what a dickhead. What are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, are you crazy, mate? Dickhead. And now you're doing now I'm the dickhead. Yeah, I'm that dickhead. Do you know what I mean? And I'm kind of, and the thing is, and like, I kind of share it to everyone. You know what I mean? I love yoga. I love meditate. You know, a morning walk is another thing that, you know, me and my partner, we love doing. Sometimes we get together, sometimes we can't due to our work. You know, but what about the evening? Because you said the evening routines. What is it that you do in the evening routine? How do you close your day off?
So how I close my day down, I'm massively into education. So I am a little sponge for books. So, and, you know, I'll go through books, and it's not that I read books, I study them, I highlight them, I post-it note them, I reread certain things. So it goes in. So I'll work on whatever book that I'm working on. Sometimes I'll just read a page. Sometimes I'll read a couple of chapters. So that's really instrumental in what I'm doing. Where I'm studying now as well, I try now. I've cut my working days down to 2 days a week, so I can study 3 days a week and be at home for the children more, which is lovely. So I try and just keep my study into the day. So in the evening, it's the reading. I journal again. I'll listen to a positive podcast or a YouTube thing, you know, and then I'll do my meditation. I'll shut my day down, and then I always fall asleep with either some frequency music, or like affirmations for the 8 hours, just something that, you know, will play in the background as I go through, you know, and that's how I shut my day down.
Brilliant. So it's absolutely, you know, vital, I think, you know, especially when you've had a noisy head, you know, like, you know, a high, like I talk about the nervous system, you know, when red alert constantly, you know, and we need to kind of slow it down a bit.
Totally.
And you know, and we've got to do, you know, I know for me, I've got to do certain things to slow myself down. You know, I'll be honest with you, sometimes even Netflix in it for me is enough to just kind of just chill down a bit, just to kind of like, especially when you work with people that you're kind of like, you know, you're working with clients that are quite high risk, and that can kind of, you know what I mean? And plus
energy transfers, you take on people's energies.
100%, man, 100%. So if you could say something to that Emily that was, you know, the young Emily, you know, who was feeling the way she's feeling, or an Emily that might be listening or watching at the moment, what would you say to her? If there's anything you could say, what would you say?
I'd just find someone who's got what you want and ask for help.
Okay.
It's as clear as day in that way. It's like you wouldn't go to a plumber and ask him how to fix your electrics.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? You wouldn't go to you wouldn't go to a metal worker and say, how do I grow flowers?
Yeah.
So if you're surrounded by, for me, where I was surrounded by all this negativity and this alcoholism, how am I going to go and ask these people that have not got successful lives? How do I manage my emotions and create? It's just, you're not going to get it. So I wish I would have, you know, if you're at school or college, you know, speak to a teacher, a counsellor. If you're an adult, you know, struggling with alcoholism or drug addiction, you know, we've got the meetings, there's support networks, there's, you know, life coaching, mindset coaching. You know, if you're struggling with money, you know, speak to somebody that's done really well with money. You wouldn't go to a poor person and ask them how to get rich. They haven't got a clue. You know, so, you know, go to people that are armed with the facts. And this is what we learned in recovery. I don't want someone that is drinking to teach me how to get sober. I want someone that has been through the process, and is armed with the facts to teach me. So look for somebody who's got what you want and ask for help.
And, you know, and there's so much free stuff on YouTube at the moment as well. There's loads of stuff. Meeting, you know, you can get meetings on there. You can get loads of like positive affirmation stuff, like you said. You know, there's loads of stuff. There's loads of support out there at the moment as well. I mean, okay. So you spoke about books and you love. What is one of your favorite books that you have read?
My favorite, I've got so many. Like, I literally learn something from every book, you know, and it always has deep meaning. But this is the one. It's The Science of Getting Rich.
Oh, okay.
So it's by Wallace Wattles. So you would think this is a money book from the title, but it actually isn't. It's a spiritual book. So this is my perception of what it is. So basically what he talks about in there is that, like, I'll read something out. So he says in here, we are thinking substance, and thinking substance always takes the form of that which it thinks about. The grateful mind is constantly fixed upon the best. So it's about connecting to that creative source, our higher power, nature, whatever.
Like
it
manifesting,
is.
it's like that. It's like the secret, the whole. You know, if you think it, believe it, and you know, you've got to kind of send it out. You know, you've got to send it out. You've got to actually believe it and think it, and feel that way for it to kind of, you know, to get the abundance, as they say. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, I've got a belief that we are spiritual beings in a human
100%.
body.
Oh, 100%.
And it's like when people say about connect to a higher power, connect to God, connect to this, I don't believe there's anything to connect to. So I believe we are it. We are connected all of the time. It's this that separates us from it.
Yeah, definitely. We are the universe, as they say. Yeah. We are the universe.
Yeah, totally.
Awesome. So, folks, about books.
Yeah.
What about your role model? Who is your favorite? One of your favorite? Who would you say is up there with your role models?
Lisa Nichols.
Lisa Nichols. Okay, tell me a little bit about Lisa Nichols.
I don't know if you've heard her. So she's a Black American lady.
Of course, I know who Lisa Nichols is. Yeah, but
she's a motivational speaker. Oh, she just blows my mind. This was a woman that grew up the same as me. Grew up in poverty, grew up surrounded by people that didn't make anything of their life. And she was at a time in her life and she couldn't even afford nappies for her son. Like, she literally had to wrap towels around her son because she couldn't afford the nappies. And she made a decision that I am never going to be this poor again or this broken again. And she, from that moment on, she worked her little socks off with mindset changing, educating herself. What I've said, go and seeking what she wants from the people that have got it. And it was a 10-year process. And that woman just it gives me goosebumps talking about it. She took her life from the gutter and she made it what she wanted. And I believe that is available to all of us.
Brilliant. Awesome.
She just blows my mind, Sol. She really does.
No, totally get it. I know who she, 100%. Powerful woman, man.
And
inspiration.
Yeah, and it goes to show when we've got a desire for something, like do you want to stop drinking now? Not really. You're not really going to get it. When I had a desire to stop drinking, I just went at it like the clappers. I'd be in meetings, I'd be on the phone to my sponsor, I'd be on the phone to accountable people. I was in the big book, I was on XA speakers, listening to Chair after. I saturated myself with what I wanted until I got it.
Brilliant. And look at you now.
And that's what I believe. Like now I'm at another level where I want to, I got to a level where I wasn't, listen, I was happy, but it wasn't, I want to create more, but I didn't know how to do it. And that's what took me down. I got a life coach, I started working towards that, then led me to another coach and a teacher of the NLP and understanding the mind. And it's just, we're just growing. We're just energy and we need to expand.
Oh, definitely. I mean, if we stop, what happens? We get stale, don't we? We have to keep on. Yeah. It's all about keeping moving forward, keep on moving, keep on growing, and and keep on being open around new stuff. I like you said, when I think I am not the person that came in here, came into some form of transformation 10 years. I'm completely a different person. My whole
you can't stay the same.
No, of course not. Definitely not. And it's amazing and it's exciting. So, okay, manifest 5 years, 10 years from now. Where's Emily 10 years from now? Where would you?
10 years.
What is your
10
your
years
ideal?
from now. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to set up a business. I am setting up a business. Not I want to. I am setting up a business to teach the mindset stuff. Mm-hmm. I eventually want to design a program. My coach is trying to fund a scientific research thing to prove cause and effect, like the manifestation stuff. But I want to design a program that can be taken into schools to start teaching children from 11, because the brains develop to us. You can't teach them younger. To teach these children that they are creators and not reactors, and to teach them about their emotions, to teach them about their feelings, to teach them about meditation, to teach them that they're in control of themselves, and give them tools, because I think those tools are better than learning about how the angle of an isosceles triangle. Do you know what I mean? Because I think by changing the children and giving them these creative tools, we will definitely 100% change the future.
100%.
But from my mindset work that I want to do, and I want to make it available to everyone else, because for me, I always wanted to get from A to B, but now it's not. I want to get from A to B, but document the journey.
Yeah.
Because I want to show people, if I can come from where I've come from and I can get to B, it is achievable to everybody.
100%.
And if we change ourselves as parents and we take the responsibility of changing our mindset and doing that stuff will pass on to our children. And we are creators of the future. But if we do that, if we change our mindsets, change our outlooks, change our beliefs, and change how we understand ourselves as people, like we're energy beings, we're spiritual beings having a human existence, and we pass that on to our children, they then start creating and they grow. And that's where I want to be. I want to be in education with children, because I believe when you're working with the adult that has the issues, listen, it's possible to change. Me and you are examples, and millions of people out there.
Prevention's better than cure, as they say.
Totally. Because I come from a dental background, and dentistry, it's always prevention is better than cure.
Yeah.
So why not with human beings? Why do we 100%. Limit ourselves and not give ourselves enough respect to do that?
and and affirm our children, man. Affirm them constantly.
Totally.
Brilliant.
Totally.
So listen, Emily, it's been absolutely amazing to have you on here. Thank you so much, and well done. And I hope you all the best. I don't even hope you. I know you're going to do what you're going to do. It's great hearing from you. How can people get in contact with you if they can? Have you got your Instagram? I know you got a podcast. So do you want to tell us a little bit about? Have you got it? Or
so, yeah. Well, the podcast that I do. So it's called Single Mum Super Mum. And it's just sharing my experiences through, the alcoholism, childhood, toxic relationships, anything really that I've experienced, because I'm a big believer on that. It's just the same as recovery. Like when my sponsor was like, right, now go out and give it away, I was like, I can't see it in my own life. It's like life coaching. Some people go, yeah, I can be a life coach and run out and do it. For me, I need to see the results in my life. So whatever I've experienced is what I will share on the podcast as per people's requests or what I feel comes up for me. I'm on my Instagram, which is mbren81.
Okay.
And Emily Brennan on Facebook. So once I've finished my training and stuff, I'm working with a company at the moment to rebrand my Insta and my business. And I'll obviously make that available on Facebook and Insta.
As soon as it's available, let me know and I can update it on the details in here, and people can get in contact with you. So once again, man, listen, thank you so much.
Thank you, darling.
Great to have you on here, and I'm sure I'm gonna have you back on here because I'm on my second series. I'm gonna do it's gonna be a little bit more different. It'll be about topics. I think I'm gonna get you back on here and talk about certain things that are that we struggle with in life, or how we can get through
and
stuff.
I'm happy to come on and do share some techniques and stuff like EFT tapping, emotional freedom techniques,
all of that stuff, definitely. 100%.
Perfect, man.
So listen, thank you to everyone who's listened. If you're if you want to hit the subscribe, hit the like, please share it away, have a listen, go onto Emily's page. Absolutely an amazing young woman doing what she's doing. And thank you once again.
Thanks, Sal.
Cheers.
Yo, what's happening, people? I want to welcome you to Flip the Script podcast show. My name is Sol and I am the host. So, on this show, you'll get the opportunity to listen to some inspiring people talking about real, honest, heartfelt, no holds barred transformation stories. We get to hear from ex-drug users, reformed criminals, all sharing their personal stories and how they manage not only to turn their lives around, but now are helping others to do the same. We also get to hear from courageous men and women sharing their experience of surviving high-level trauma and what they are doing or done to start that much-needed healing process. They say that life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forward. On this show, we get to understand what that actually means. Everyone's got a story, but not everyone gets to share theirs. So remember, hit the subscribe button, press like, so we can continue to spread the message that change is possible even in the darkest of places.